is talking about the bottom up. And looking at fertilizers, Madam Speaker, this is something where the farmers are going to get subsidized fertilizers, and therefore we are going to get a bumper harvest for our people. We have the increase of salaries for police. Madam Speaker, most of us, even members of parliament, we all know that our security suffers a lot. I was privileged to have been married by one gentleman who was an inspector of police. That is the late Inspector Joshua Tongei. Some of us know how much these people earn. The peanut salaries the policemen earn, Madam Speaker, it's heartbreaking. And therefore, when we get some increment for them, Madam Speaker, these people do a lot. They protect us while we are sleeping. They are in our borders, protecting the country, and they go through a lot of pressure and stress, while their families cannot afford even to put food on the table, leave alone their children to go to school. Madam Speaker, this is something which is encouraging, and I support this budget because of that, coming from that background of being married by a policeman. Madam Speaker, there is also the issue of coolants. I was privileged one time when the president visited my county, and he had promised to give me 30 coolants. Madam Speaker, this will go across for all women to get coolants, and they can afford to take their milk for preservation, and therefore, even the increase of money, around 500 million to KCC, so that women can get payment of 50 shillings per bottle, because it's only in Kenya where we get a bottle of water being more expensive than a bottle of milk. Madam Speaker, I support the budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Tonke, and thank you also for taking that opportunity to reflect on the experiences of police officers, of course, citing your late husband. Honorable members, I would like to give this opportunity to the Honorable Esuda. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, and I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the chair of the Committee of Budget and Appropriations Committee and the entire committee for putting in a lot of hours to ensure that by the time we are opening the House, this is only day 2, we have the supplementary estimates 1 presented in this House, Madam Speaker. I want to just make a few points. First is that as a country, we are actually experiencing extraordinary times, and this calls for extraordinary measures for us as a country, Madam Speaker, and that is why for the first time in the history of Kenya, we have supplementary estimate 1, even before we start implementing the budget that we passed before we went for recess, Madam Speaker. And this was occasioned by Kenyans speaking to us as the leadership, from the topmost leadership, the president, all the way to us in the National Assembly and the Senate, all the way to the counties, and even to the members of the county assemblies, Madam Speaker, by talking to us and telling us that, hey, we do not want to be overtaxed, and even as you tax us, we want to get value for our money. And that is why, Madam Speaker, His Excellency the President did not assent to the finance bill, and that is why, as a committee and as a House, we have revised and we have rationalized the budget to fit onto the shoe that we are wearing as a country, Madam Speaker. I want to say this, that as a committee, we have looked at the austerity measures. And Kenyans have again told us, as leaders, that do not cosmetically talk to us about austerity measures. By just saying that we have cut, we are seeing memos that there will be no travels, that there will be no tea, there will be no flowers. They actually want to see it happening, Madam Speaker. And so they do not want us to just say we won't travel, and then they find out that we sneaked out of the country and traveled. They want to see that when we say there is no travel by parastatal officers, by members of parliament, by the executive, we will exactly do that. Of course, there will be essential travels where, for example, our country, we have to give a country position, like to the Pan-African Parliament, to the IPU. there are areas that probably we must be there as a country, Madam Speaker. They also want to see that when we travel, there will be no excess baggage of persons who are not going to add value in that travel, Madam Speaker. For example, when we go for sports, you find that the people who are going to run or the people who are going to participate in the sports are not in the list. And then we have joy riders who first get the merchandise free, the ones who go there and enjoy themselves and go out and send photos and have a field day when they go for World Cup and things like that, Madam Speaker. Those are the things Kenyans have said we do not want to see, and as a House, we will be doing our proper oversight. Any executive member who is going to do that, we will not play any tribal card that that person comes from my county or that person comes from my area. We would rather lose our political seats rather than going against what Kenyans want, Madam Speaker. But quickly to the issues that are in the budget, which I am happy about. The Budget Committee and also the government, I must give them credit. They did not go, when we are doing the cuts, Madam Speaker, they did not touch so much on the things that touch directly on the common man. And I'm happy about that. For example, JSS, there was a lot of agitation, and we saw even the letter that Treasury had written to us before we went for recess, that if we reject the finance bill, they will not employ the JSS teachers. I thank the government and also the Budget Committee by ensuring that has not happened. The JSS teachers will be employed. Equalization Fund, we have 8 billion, Madam Speaker. I'm happy also with this government that for the first time in every financial year, we are seeing that Equalization Fund is prioritized and the monies are also being disbursed. Also, Madam Speaker, school feeding program is there in this budget, Madam Speaker. Lastly, we are seeing hides and skins getting money, Madam Speaker. The other thing that Kenyans have talked about is about equity. We cannot only have money going to coffee sector, tea sector. Even the pastoralists of this country count. They also pay taxes, and I'm happy that there is money for skins and hides so that one of their economic sector can also get money. And for that reason, I do support, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Mwago, Amos Mwago, member for Starehe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to weigh in on this matter. And on the onset, I want to congratulate the chairman for the Budget Committee on the recommendations on the budget, the budgetary cuts. I think this has come from the agitation that the public has meted on us as Parliament and on the government as a whole. And I think it is time now we think about the principle of the three arms of government, having the legislature, executive, and the judiciary. And I think in the view of the public, our arm of government is performing dismally and is purportedly being controlled by the executive, which we should be oversighting. I think that's an issue that we should bring that debate on the floor of the House and discuss our role as Parliament. What is our role as Parliament? Because we seem to have been overridden by the executive in our mandate to oversight it. I say so because even when you look at some of the areas that the budgetary cuts have been affected, some of the areas are issues that had been raised by the public and were addressed by the executive. When we are talking about the office of the First Lady, the Second Lady, and maybe the office of the wife of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, these are issues that were raised by the public and they were addressed by the executive, which are issues that we as Parliament should have looked into before these issues got to the public galore. I tend to think we also have missed on some of the priorities on the budget cuts, because what the Kenyans are saying, the excesses by government and state officers, there's a very big loophole in how money is spent in this government. The giant of corruption, that's why people are addressing the issues. They are saying those are the areas where we should have budgetary cuts. But it's so shameful that now that we didn't pass the finance bill, we've retorted to cutting budgets for very critical areas, like the chairman for Health Committee has just stated that there's a machine that was supposed to be bought by Kenyatta Hospital. That has to be forgone, but there are people still earning allowances, whereas such crucial machines have been affected by the lack of passing the finance bill. These are the issues that we should talk as parliaments. We need to prioritize what Kenyans need. We have to do the budgetary cuts in the areas that Kenyans do not seem to feel like there are more urgent issues, but those critical areas, that's where we should effect these budgetary cuts. The second thing is the issue of RDAs and the duplication of duties among very many government agencies. It is time that in our different committees, there are so many agencies that tend to duplicate duties and people earning so much money, doing the same thing the same way. And this is why I really want to agree with the chairman for budget committee when he talks about when you have different engineers from all road departments in a certain constituency earning money for the same work. These are some of the areas that we should look at. We saw when the county governments, after the election, the county government of Kisii, the governor Simba Arati went ahead and really did, really came out and brought a huge number of workers who are ghost workers. I believe if such a small county as Kisii County had so many ghost workers, it is time to audit all the employees of the government so that we can know which employees are duplicating tasks so that we can address this issue of money going through the wrong hands. Also, we need to address the issue of the giant element in our budget, that is the recurrent expenditure. We need to see how productive is the recurrent expenditure. This money that we're spending on salaries, are we getting equal value in return from the amount that we're expending so that we can know where to cut on these budgets? We also have the issue of pending projects and affordable housing. We tend to introduce new projects, but we have so many projects that are pending. In my constituency alone, we have the Jivanji housing project, Pangani housing project, Sarai Point housing project that was launched by the president, but has not taken off. But we are still planning and actually allocating money for more development on affordable housing, whereas even the ones that had been started by the previous regime are not yet done. These are some of the issues that we need to look at. And these are issues that we need to address. And we really need to respect our middle class and the people who are paying taxes in the informal sectors. We cannot increase taxes on the imports in this country. And also
the Honorable Sylvanus Osoro, member for South Mogirango.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also want to support as I make my contribution in regard to the report by the Budget and Appropriation Committee, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we are living in very interesting times, very, very interesting times, especially economically. It requires us, Honorable Speaker, to take a lot of measures, very, very many measures, Honorable Speaker, so that we can be able to live within our means, Honorable Speaker. In fact, even on personal life, members and even people in public service have been accused of living large. It's now about time that even as we talk about the national budget cuts, we also talk on budget cuts on even our personal homes and even our, way of life in terms of operations, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker,